Okay, now let's make some herbal cakes for Moxibustion using granules, because people are always asking me about granules. To be honest, I never use them. At one point on Facebook, I asked, does anyone have some expired granules they'd give me? And so the reason we're making it with danchen is because that was one of the bottles of expired granules that I got. I just, I like using the raw herbs. So I've got this danchen powder, and we're going to take some of it and put it in the bowl. And what happens is, if you add water to it like we did before, and now I actually have a pipette that's working, and you stir it, you're not going to get, it's just going to be gloopy. So the problem with doing that to, ground up herbs is that they will crumble and fall apart. But the problem with doing it with granules is that they they're just going to be a sticky mess. They don't add any like thickness to it, or not the right amount, not the right kind of thickness. So we have to add a little bit of the flour again. And that will not only thicken it up, but it will help it to hold together. And so now we're going to do, same thing like before. It's not so different than before. And, we can add more of whatever we think it needs. More water if it needs more water, more flour if it's not thickening up properly, more granules if we think it needs more strength. And so now let's see what this is like. Ooh, it's still kind of sticky. Yeah. So, if you try to put that on the patient, it's just going to make a sticky mess. So let's add a little bit more flour. Not too much. Of course, it's all going to come out at once when it finally does come out. Okay, there. Let's see what happens now. That's getting better. So, if you're doing this all the time, you can get pretty quick at it. I'm not doing it all the time, but I think this is a great technique. Okay, so you knead it a little bit to get the gluten going. It's still slightly sticky, but it's nice and moist. Let's say if we wanted to do, a point that's bilateral on both sides, and actually using granules, or even powdered herbs, you're kind of pretty free to experiment. So if somebody's having some kind of heart blood stasis or something, you could choose heart-related points and do a little moxa on danchen danchen and see what you think. You could still, there's a little powder here, so if I think it's still a little too sticky, I can get a little flour on it. As I said, I prefer the actual herbs, but we still make some holes in it. And now, I'm a messy person, as you probably figured out by now, but now we've got some little moxa cakes. I could make another one with this other piece that you put the cones on top. You'd want to wash your hands in between. And the patient says hot, it's still, more or less strong enough to pick up, maybe not as much. So you put it on a piece of gauze, or you work with how much flour versus how much liquid and so forth. But, this is a good way to use up expired granules. And many of you don't have the ability to easily get powdered herbs. So this is an alternative. Okay.